We're so honored to have Nigel Farage here today. He's testament to what one person can do if they don't quit, they don't give up, they persevere. He started working, I guess, 25 years or more ago with the United Kingdom Independence Party, and everybody thought it was an impossible feat to separate Great Britain from the European Union, but he never gave up. And you think it was polarized last night at the State of the Union. You wouldn't believe what it's like in Britain. What this man's had to endure. They tried to kill him once. The same person who tried to kill him became his pilot, and then crashed the plane trying to kill him, and he walked away. He made a lot of the same statements in 2016 that I made, but he and I didn't know each other then. He said about Donald Trump, he said, we're not electing a pope. And I was saying, we're not electing a Sunday school teacher, we're electing a president. I didn't know that until last night. But he also, there's just so many interesting stories about what's happened to him over the last 25 years and how he's stuck with it. And I'm trying to remember some of the other incidents. His family was chased out of a pub and had to run for their lives. I guess some kind of mob was coming after him. So what you saw last night with the State of the Union is calm compared to what happens in Britain. And so I guess we need to be thankful for that, although I'm afraid it's not going to get any better here. But he almost made it here, like David said, back in the fall. And the night before he was going to speak, Becky and I were with him at Candace Owens' wedding in Charlottesville. So he got within an hour of Liberty, and he suddenly had to rush back to Great Britain. There was some emergency that he'll tell you about, had to do with Brexit. But I was so proud last week, or this week, I guess, when he gave this, or last week, when he gave the last speech in the UK before they separated from the European Union. And so we are blessed like no other university to have somebody of his stature with us this morning. Please welcome to Liberty, Nigel Farage.
Good morning, Liberty! What an amazing university, and what an amazing time to be alive. At 11 o'clock last Friday evening, on the dot, a 47-year political experiment ended, and one that I'd spent 27 years of my life campaigning for. And we left the European Union, and the United Kingdom is now an independent, free country. That was after I'd been to Brussels to give my last ever speech in the European Parliament. One or two of you may have seen it, and I thought, well, I've been a member of this place for over 21 years. I need to say goodbye in some way. So I thought a little wave with a Union Jack might be quite a friendly way to say goodbye. They got terribly upset with me. They cut off my microphone, and the woman in the chair said, "Take your flag and go." And that's what Britain did last Friday. We took our flags and we've left it all behind. And Brexit's a big deal. It's a big deal not just for the United Kingdom, it's a big deal for the rest of Europe. It's a big deal for the Western world. And the reason you saw on the screen a moment ago, the reason that Donald Trump put me on a stage with him in Mississippi back in 2016 was because he felt that Brexit was the first big win for the people against the globalist establishment. And Trump felt if we brought a bit of Brexit into the American campaign, maybe, just maybe, all the pollsters, all the newspaper commentators would be wrong. Maybe, just maybe, he could beat Hillary Clinton. And 2016, we got Brexit and we got Trump. It was a great year, a great year. But something extraordinary happened. You see, normally, in a democracy, you operate with something that is called loser's consent. You may not like the fact that your side lost the election, but you accept the result and you vow to try and win in a few more years' time. And yet, in 2016, the global elites never accepted Brexit. And here in America, many in mainstream media and elsewhere did not accept Trump's victory. They've spent 3.5 years trying to delegitimize Brexit. 3.5 years trying to delegitimize your democratically elected president. They refused to accept the will of the people. They said it was all because of the Russians. They said we cheated. The truth of it is, Hillary Clinton was a dreadful candidate and she lost. That's the truth of it. But be in no doubt, we have finally got Brexit. And I was privileged last night to sit in the gallery of the House of Representatives to watch Trump's State of the Union speech. I've never attended a political event like it. It was like a Trump rally. It was so partisan. And just as that female speaker in the European Parliament cut off my microphone and made herself look stupid, what happened last night with Nancy Pelosi ripping up the speech, she made herself look even worse than the President of the European Parliament. Bad behavior. And what she was doing actually, she was dishonoring the occasion, dishonoring herself, and dishonoring the position of Speaker. And I saw those Democrats in the chamber, some of the time standing up, protesting, and I thought to myself, our side of the argument would never do that. We like to win elections, but we understand that in a modern Christian democracy, other people are entitled to have other views. It doesn't make them bad people. And yet the liberals now have become so illiberal that they think their views are morally superior to ours. They think they are better people than us. The liberals have now become profoundly illiberal. But I've got some good news. We've beat them over Brexit. And in November 2020, Donald Trump will beat them in your presidential election. Oh yes, be in no doubt. Tony Abbott is the former Prime Minister of Australia. He said last week that Brexit was the biggest geopolitical event since the fall of the Berlin Wall. You are living through extraordinary times. For decade after decade, big multinational business, working with big banks and big politics, have tried to create, piece by piece, supranational government, almost global government. They've taken the power away from the hands of you, the voters, and given it to the bureaucrats. And all of this has suited big businesses and heavy regulatory regimes because it makes it hard for free market capitalism. It makes it hard for men and women that want to go out there on their own and give it a go. Bureaucracy has been triumphing over democracy, and the nation state has found itself subservient to a higher international order. We've even been told years ago we mustn't fly the Union Jack because that might be offensive. We might be thought to be racist. We might be thought to be nationalist. And actually the truth of it is, free people don't want to live governed by bureaucrats. Free people don't want false flags and false anthems. Free people want to be proud of their country, proud of their culture. Free people want to live in democracy. Free people don't want government telling them everything that they should do, and the nation state is winning. You are living through a massive historical change. All of that order is going to be swept away, and I tell you, I haven't finished just getting the United Kingdom out of the European Union. I won't settle until I get the whole of Europe out of the European Union. That's what I'm going to do. For me, how did I come to do this? Well, I was a businessman working for American companies, trading in commodities, copper, zinc, things like that. But I looked in the early 1990s and I realized what the globalist project was. I realized they wanted us to give up the pound and join the euro. I realized that our vote meant nothing when foreign bureaucrats decided our laws. And I looked around. Did other people recognize the problem that I saw? And I found some people in Parliament who did, but I felt none of them actually had the guts, the courage of their convictions to stand up. So I decided, maybe crazily, that I was going to stand up and fight the entire British establishment and the European establishment as well. And my friends and my family said I was mad, said it could never succeed. And yet, I just kept on going. I kept on going, year after year after year. Failure after successive failure. And then one day, it began to work. One day, other people began to see what I'd seen. They'd seen that our country was literally being given away by politicians happy to be run from somewhere else. And I'm going to mention Hillary again. Oh, by the way, I'm being nice about her compared with what she says about me. But if Hillary had won, you too would have found yourselves giving up bits of control of your nation to a higher international order. So anyway, other people began to see it, and I started to get support. I started to get millions of people voting for me in elections. And I managed to terrify David Cameron, the Prime Minister. He wanted to get rid of me somehow, so he promised a ballot. He promised a referendum. We won the referendum, and the very next day, David Cameron resigned. So I'd got rid of my first British Prime Minister. And then they told us, it's okay, we will implement Brexit, we'll do what the people told us. And 1 year went by, and 2 years went by, and 3 years went by, and we finished up with this desperate crisis. And so what I did, I launched another new party, the Brexit Party. Within 6 weeks, we'd won the European elections. Within 6 weeks, we'd got 50% more votes than any other party. And the next morning, Theresa May resigned, and I got rid of my second British Prime Minister, which I'm quite proud of. So we're there finally, we've left, we've got work to do. But I think there's a very, very special form of alliance that our two countries now need to have. You are very much bigger and stronger than we are, but we are positioned geographically in an important part of the world. And think of this, what the Americans and the British did together, and much of it, the inspiration of a man who was half British and half American. I'm talking, of course, about Winston Churchill. But if you think what the UK and the USA did twice in Europe in the 20th century at massive cost of blood and treasure, when our two nations are together, when our two nations are determined, We didn't just save the UK from being invaded, we saved democracy and we saved the free world. Britain and America can do great things, and we can do great things in the future. And I really believe that. I believe our peoples are close. I believe our cultures are close. And I think Brexit and Trump are going to bring our two nations much, much, much more closely together. And I'm looking forward to that, and I'm excited by that. It'll never be easy. Just because you win victories, there are always more battles to fight. But I want to say this to you. I'm 55, which probably to you seems pretty ancient. But I have learned one or two things about what it is to succeed in life, but perhaps more importantly, I've learned one or two things about how you feel inside and what really, really matters in life. The first thing I would say to any young person embarking upon the world is please don't forget to smile. Be happy in whatever you do. Do you see those people going into the offices in Washington every day? All those people who work for the deep state, they all look miserable. We need to be happy. And I'd say to people who want to succeed, I tell you what, nobody who lies around in bed till midday goes out and changes the world. You've got to get up and start the day with a positive feeling. And you've got to take pride. Pride in yourselves, pride in your faith, pride in your family, pride in your country. You've got to take those things. But what I'm going to say now is maybe controversial. I don't think it is. We're told in the modern world we've got to go out there, we've got to get a good degree, we've got to get a good job, we've got to make money. We've got to make money. And I begin to think, I'm sure not at Liberty, but I begin to think that somehow the pursuit of money has become the goal of most young people. The pursuit of money, or the pursuit indeed of celebrity, or perhaps the two together. And I've learned something. I've learned that money is not the most important thing in my life. And it isn't. It really, really isn't. I spent over a quarter of a century fighting for what I believed in at a massive financial cost to me, a massive financial cost to my family. But I tell you what, I am happier and more satisfied than many of my friends who I left behind in business. Oh, they may live in big luxury mansions. They may have great yachts. I don't have any of those things, but I have a sense of satisfaction in myself that I did something that all of you must do. If you have a dream, if you find something at some point in your life that you say, I really want to do this, don't let anybody talk you out of it. Don't let anybody tell you that financially you might be worse off, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I had certitude. I had conviction about what I wanted to do. I was certain that I was the person to take on this fight, and I followed my dream. And I guess on Friday night at 11 o'clock last week, I kind of succeeded. And I will live with that satisfied feeling that my rich friends will never, ever be able to have. Please follow your dreams. And remember this, you can grow up taking democracy for granted. You can grow up taking liberty and freedom for granted. But there is something within the soul of some people where they want power and money, and they want to subject and subvert everybody else. Go back through human history. These patterns of behavior repeat themselves time after time. And what I've learned since 2016, since the greatest democratic exercise in the history of my country was nearly overturned, by those who disrespected what we've done. What I've learned is that if you want to be free people, if you want to be able to live in liberty, if you want to be able to determine your own futures, you cannot take these freedoms for granted. You have to fight for these freedoms and fight for them every day of your lives. Good always triumphs over evil, but we have to stand up and fight for good and go on fighting for good. And you will leave this great place of learning, and you will go out into the world and you pursue your careers. But you will want to hand on to your children the liberties of free speech and democracy that you are enjoying, and that I believe President Trump is actually going to make even better for you over the course of the next 4 years. But whatever you do, make sure you don't leave these things to others. It's too easy to say, oh, I agree with that, but I'm not going to do anything about it. You are people who are strong young people. You're a people I saw earlier with amazing faith and optimism. You are people who can play a huge role in 21st century America and indeed across much of the rest of the world. So please, be optimistic, be happy, work hard, because there are no shortcuts to success in life. And if you ever get that feeling that I had one day 27 years ago, that this is the one thing in my life that I've got to do, don't let anybody around you talk you out of it. Follow your dreams. Be true to yourselves, and then you'll be really happy people. Money comes a very poor second. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Farage. We're going to sit down just for a few minutes. Just as we're getting ready.